Hi.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I find out just how much I can do while rocking a headache. And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday, Theatrical Thursday. And I say theatrical because just recently, as in about half an hour or so ago, I was on the Midnight's Edge After Dark stream with Tom Connors and Clobberin' Times and Nick Weiser and Six and Script Doctor and 70s Rocker. I want to say Brian, that 70s Rocker. Something. Anyway, if anybody decided to come over from there to here, welcome to the show. Hope you're all doing well this evening. This is TED Excellence, where I take a look at TEDx Talks and TED Talks of interest and note for education and edification. I swear they're two different things. But before I get into tonight's topic, who's joining me on this beautiful Thursday morning? Morning? That's not morning. That's my headache talking. Joshua Montgomery, hello. Random American, hello. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Tony Giff, hello. Let's see, who else is here? Grand Inquisitor Tyr Alexander, hello. Robert Pincus, hello. And then chat jump, because of course it did. Derek LaRue, thank you so much, Derek, as always, for your continued support and generosity. Really do appreciate it. Hope you're having a good evening so far. And hopefully I can make it a little bit better. Thank you. Bash the Doggy, hello. Noah Asensio, hello. Miranda Stone, hello. RJ Godzilla 81, hello. Mead Raid. Kiro Sojiro, hello. Jamie Melquist, hello. Shell D, hello. Who else is here? Oh, it keeps popping in. Cynic, hello. Assassin of the Gray, hello. Urkale Di Stefano, hello. Ost San, hello. Nathan Willie, hello. Tall Person, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. I'm going to try this. And please tell me if I get it right, wrong, or otherwise and correct me. Mishiru Kuruguri. Kururugi? Mishiru Kururugi. Am I close? Let me know if I'm close. I try to get it right eventually. Blakester, hello. And anybody else, but JMK, hello. Non-Vitae Rex, hello. Pissed Off Shih Tzu, hello. And I think that's everyone. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, hello. Oh, Curmudgeon Gaming, hello. So yes, tonight we have a bit of a mystery. I like my mystery episodes. I like them when I don't know anything about what they're going to talk about, or maybe I can suspect, but I'm not quite sure. Yes, we're going completely off of the title of this TEDx. This talk may be banned in schools. That is the title of the presentation. Now, I don't know, because I haven't watched this. I don't know what this guy is going to talk about, and I'm a little bit wary. But the video has been up on TEDx's site for at least a week, so I'm assuming if there's anything really terrible in here, it's at least permissible that my channel isn't going to get zapped or something, so I guess I'll find out as we go. But yeah, so what is going to be, why would this talk be banned in schools? I did look at the capsule a little bit. I think it might have something to do with books that are banned in schools. So this might be something that I'm completely on board with, depending on what he's talking about. But as we see on the screen here, our speaker's name is Jonathan Friedman, educator, scholar, free speech advocate. I guess we'll find out. And before I get any further into that, here we go. Say it like Michiru Kururugi. Scribelight, you were not far off. Okay, Michiru Kururugi. Michiru Kururugi. Okay. Well, I will attempt. If I am to pronounce it in the future or attempt to, I'll make the attempt. But thank you for that. Appreciate it. I always like to learn how people's names are said because it's always interesting. Shadowclaw, hello. Brittany Holland, hello. And what a time to tune in. I know, right? I know. But anyway, with all that as preamble, tonight's bingo card is bingo card C. C as in Catcher in the Rye. So today's bingo card poll ended up being a three-way tie on Twitter. which has never happened before as far as I know, so I'm not quite sure what that portends for this presentation. But I cooked together an online Wheel of Fortune, put up an A, B, and a C, spun it, and we ended up with card C. So tonight's card is C. Links to the cards are in the description. Get your bingo cards ready. If you'd like to join in on voting for the bingo card each week on the Twitter poll, follow me on Twitter. You can find me on there, on X. You can follow me on X, scribe_light. But with all that as introduction, and before I forget, top of the chat box. Sorry, I'm doing this solo tonight. Top of the chat box are a couple of GoFundMes that I'd like you to pay attention to if you can, real quick. Some viewers of the channel need some help if you can give it. First and foremost, we have Maddie, who's also a YouTuber. She's recently been diagnosed with cancer, and she needs some help paying for the deductibles for her cancer treatment. On her GoFundMe, she has posted the receipts or the invoices for that treatment, so you can see that what she needs is exactly what she's asking for. As well, we have a link up there for Lisa. Lisa and her boyfriend are trying to pay for their puppy's surgery, so please take a look at that one. And lastly, there's one up there for Angry Illinoisian, who has some workers' comp situation that needs injured on the job. Family needs some help. You guys take a look at those. If you can donate, please do. If you can't, that's fine. But if you can, share those out on social media. That would be appreciated. Okay. With all that as preamble, we have an 18-minute and 24-second presentation. Let's get into it before I take up too much time. But before I do that, thank you, C. Thomas P-ness. Well, thank you, C. Thomas, for that. You know, I once gave my mother a can of world peas. She said she wanted world peace for her birthday one time, and I gave her a can of world peas. It was just peas in a glass jar filled with water that you could whirl around. You get it? World. Anyway. With that, let's begin. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed.
I think we should throw these books in the fire.
Okay, I think we should throw these books in the fire. Now, you guys hear that okay? Let me know in the chat real quick. Bridget, hello. Is good, says Random American. All good, says Tony Giff. 5x5, Kara Soder. Sounds good, says Derek LaRue. Good, says Bridget.
It's not a quote from Fahrenheit 451. It's a quote from a school board member last year in Virginia.
That was a weird audio change. Was that a dub? Wait a second.
Quote from Fahrenheit 451. It's a quote from a school board member last year in Virginia.
Book burning was also recently suggested at a school board meeting
in Nampa, Idaho.
Okay, that was a weird... I don't know if that was an audio problem on their end or that was a dub over. But anyway.
The board was debating what to do with a list of 23 books that a single parent had challenged as inappropriate.
Okay, well, I mean, it depends on the content of the book, I suppose.
The list included books by Margaret Atwood, Toni Morrison, Khaled Hosseini, Jonathan Safran Foer. After debate, the board passed a motion to remove these books from their libraries forever.
Okay, well, I'm not really big on banning books, but at the same time, some things are content and material that is appropriate for children, depending on what, age group we're talking about, and some aren't. I mean, I could see some books being inappropriate for children in, say, elementary school that would make more sense if it was high school. But it really depends on what we're talking about. And it's not as though they're unavailable to someone who wants to go find one at a public library necessarily, I suppose. But, okay.
Ban them forever. What happened in Nampa is not an outlier. Across the country, book bans have taken school districts by storm.
Are you going to slip in certain books, say, in, I don't know, that have been contested in Florida, let's just say in particular? What is the subject matter of the books that you are most curious about?
And this is just one thread in a larger web of educational censorship that is entangling our schools, our colleges, our libraries.
Educational censorship. Okay, what are these books teaching? Are they appropriate for children? And it's not as though the government is banning them from all access just in school circumstances. Again, it depends on what we're talking about, because it really is a case-by-case basis.
At PEN America, where I work, we've spent 100 years championing the freedom to write and the freedom to read.
Nobody's stopping anybody from writing or reading. The educators are curating content for children. Now, depending on the circumstances, you may or may not agree or disagree, but that's somebody's ability to write and read is not being curtailed here.
We unite writers and their allies to celebrate creative expression and defend the civil liberties that make it possible.
And none of that is being damaged here. Even if a school board banned a book from the schools that I personally did not think should be banned or needed to be banned, it would still not be infringing on anybody's right to, well, write or read that book in their own time. You know, I mean, if the government writ large, if the federal government came out and said that book needs to be banned from everywhere, it needs to be destroyed, it can't be used anymore, 1984 kind of stuff, which is another banned book some places, that I'd have a problem with. More of a problem than I would with just a school board doing something. But
we view educational censorship as a cancer on a free society, and in the United States today, it is spreading fast.
What is the educational content of these books? You're not talking about textbooks. You're not talking about academic books. You're talking about novels and so on.
We've tracked 2,000 school book bans in the past year. In the past 2 years, nearly 200 educational gag order bills in 41 states, bills with explicit bans on what can be discussed in the classroom.
On what can be discussed in the classroom? Wait, what are we talking about? Are we talking about books again, or what?
We've seen bans on classroom content from Florida to California, bans on critical race theory.
Oh no, not critical race theory! Oh no! Oh, you mean teaching racism at an academic level to children? Teaching children to evaluate themselves and others on the basis of skin color? Oh, heavens to Murgatroyd, not that. Thank you, C. Thomas. My guess is this guy is crying about the books parents have severe issues with. That could be categorized as cheese pizza. I'm wondering, I mean, if he's lamenting the absence or the, let's say, removal of critical race theory from classrooms, we might be going there. Let's see, a couple more hellos here while I see him. Nobody Huno, hello. And anybody else I missed? Sam Squatch, hello. And if I missed you, Shadow Claw, did I say hello? Hello, Shadow Claw. Roger Reynolds, hello. And I think, again, I hope I didn't miss anybody, but if I did, I say hello to you.
From North Dakota to Georgia. In Texas, there's a ban on the New York Times 1619 Project.
Do you know why there's a ban on the 1619 Project? You're not... Okay, I'm guessing here. I am guessing here. If I'm proven wrong, I'm happy to be proven wrong. Okay, let me put it this way. In order for this presentation to be successful, whether I agree with it or not, he needs to at least articulate what the opposition's argument is. Even if he tries to dismiss it, whether or not he tries to play it, he has to at least entertain and inform the audience what is the opposition to these things. What is the opposition to the 1619 Project? What is the opposition to CRT? Before you can just sort of like say, oh, opposition to this is bad. Well, why is it bad? What makes CRT good? What makes the 1619 Project good? Aside from the fact that it is a historically inaccurate race-based nonsense piece. I mean, what?
In Tennessee, there's a ban on a particular page of a particular book because it shows seahorses rubbing their tummies before the males carry eggs.
Okay. You know what? I will bet you that our speaker has multiple cherry-picked examples of things from books that people had opposition to that, out of context and without any other information, may look completely harmless or silly. I will bet you. But here's the question. Will he articulate what the opposition is to the majority of the things that I can only assume he is alluding to at this point?
There's more.
Oh, I'm sure there's more. Will you be giving a fair assessment of the situation, or is this all going to be cherry-picked single pages out of books? Is there anything else in that book that might be opposed? I don't know what book this is, but I have to take it on faith that this is the only problem. Thank you again, C. Thomas. This guy screams shill for all those insidious progressive propaganda campaigns, huckstery scams. I don't know. I don't know anything about the organization he works for, the Penn something. I mean, he talks about it's just there for furthering written and educational freedom, but there's no ideological bent to it.
I've seen bans on LGBTQ pride flags in schools.
Oh, have you? Can you think of an argument as to why? What is LGBTQ? I mean, and especially depending on what kind of grade level we're talking about. Can you imagine why?
Bans on teachers wearing rainbow articles of clothing. Bans on displaying student projects about police and racism.
Wow. You mean like pushing political and sociological ideologies onto children? Can you imagine for a minute? Can you differentiate, I guess I should say, can you differentiate between education and indoctrination? Socio-political movements and philosophies versus, facts, figures, history, math, and so on. These two things are different from one another, right?
There have been efforts to ban whole academic courses, math textbooks, digital literacy apps. Children's authors have been banned from speaking to students about their books.
What are their books about? What is the content of their books? Is the content of their books appropriate for the age level we are talking about? Okay, let's go to the bingo card real quick. Remember, this is bingo card C as in catcher in the rye. So let's take a look real quick. I'm going to go over it one time just to refresh ourselves on what we're listening for, see if anything jumps out to us so far. Plays victim. He hasn't personally played the victim yet, so I can't circle that one. Leaves out vital context. Okay, I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt until I'm proven otherwise that he's going to at some point at least give some lip service to the opposition to these things. What is the criticism? If we get any more further into this and he doesn't, I will circle that because leaves out vital context is pretty key so far as I can tell. Weightless example. That seahorse one, absent any other context, maybe. Well, we'll see. There might be something else coming down the pike. Anecdote that probably never happened. Not that I've heard yet. I mean, I can believe that at some point somebody has complained about the books that he listed off as being banned, right? So that's the only anecdote he's given so far that I can think of. Benevolent condescension. Yes, but I'm going to wait for more information. Self-vilification or wretchedness, no. Feminism, no. Childhood or family anecdote, not yet. Privilege, no. Sales pitch for product or service. This might be a tough one because is he saying that you should read these books and so on? I guess we'll see how he plays it out. Microaggressions or unconscious bias, not yet. Patriarchy, no. Economic disparity, not yet. Mind reading assumes motives. It's still early days. I could probably safely circle it, but I'm going to wait. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. No. Word salad. I've understood what he said so far. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Not yet. Marginalize, marginalization. Not yet. Contradicts own point or argument. Not sure what his argument is yet. Systemic, institutional. Maybe by implication with school districts, well, the government, and I'll wait. Maybe he'll say a list. Yes, I'm going to circle a list because he went through books, examples, and so on of books that had been requested to be banned and so on from school districts. So I'll circle that one. And I'm circling free space reflexively. White supremacy, not yet, could be. Argumentative non sequitur, we'll see. And collectivizes own demographic, not yet. So far, even though tenuously there are several squares, I think I'm safe in circling, but we'll wait. So far on the board, we have free space and a list. Let's continue.
In South Carolina, there's a bill that would ban sex education for all students under 18.
See, in this instance, I don't have research at hand, so maybe he's correct. I have a feeling he's probably oversimplifying it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that true, though? Is that true? And is it true in sort of the flat, basic, without details way that he said it?
So finally, in one state, teenagers won't know about sex. Mischief managed.
See, I got a feeling that that's not entirely true. Just call me crazy, and I don't have it in front of me. I am limited to what's within the talk, but I have a feeling we might be able to safely circle that as anecdote that probably never happened.
Now, to me, this sounds like a country afraid of education.
Whoa. You have yet to describe the educational value of anything you've brought up. Anything you've brought up. You started talking about banned books. Now you're talking about banning sex education. Okay, even if what you're saying is absolutely true, what does the one thing have to do with the other? If you're for freedom of speech, freedom of expression, don't want any books banned, what does that have to do with sex ed? You explain that one? Why do you keep dwelling on? Okay. Thank you again, C. Thomas. I called it. He's a prog shill. He's not doing himself any favors as far as his presentation's concerned so far, because it feels like a bit of a Trojan horse. It's like, I'm for, writing freedom and freedom of speech and freedom to read and freedom to write and everything else. By the way, let me tell you about LGBTQ flags and sex ed. Police, Black Lives Matter or whatever, yeah?
Not one investing in it. Bans are toxic for education. They hamper the work of teachers, shortchange students, limit our intellectual horizons.
You have said nothing about educational content or value yet. And you've meandered off into territory that has nothing to do with books. What are you talking about?
Today, I'm talking about these topics freely. Tomorrow, this talk could be banned in schools too.
Well, it's been posted for a couple of weeks now, I think. What is the educational value of your talk for schools? I haven't heard anything yet.
America prides itself on its freedoms, but what's happening today fits a pattern, a periodic willingness to resort to state censorship in the name of one goal or another. And state censorship never looks good in the eyes of history.
Okay. Curating books in a school is not the same as state censorship. Otherwise, and I don't know what our speaker's answer to this would be, but shall we put, I don't know, adult magazines in elementary schools? I mean, if you're for no limits whatsoever, if anything a school says shouldn't be on the shelf in a school library should be there, well, then what So anything at all should be put in front of students. All right. This is starting to irritate me. He's not being honest here.
Not the Sedition Act, which sent people to jail for criticizing the First World War.
Okay. Who's criticizing the First World War? Okay, what is the modern incarnation of the Sedition Act? Not that it existed. I won't deny that it existed. I won't deny that things were bad in the past. What is the Sedition Act today, as far as you're concerned?
Not the Comstock laws, where women were prosecuted for mailing birth control pamphlets.
Okay, and so the Sedition Act is still in place? The Comstock law is still in place?
Not the laws banning teaching evolution in schools in the 1920s.
In the 1920s, you say? Yeah, the Scopes monkey trial, as it was called, if I'm not mistaken. And how did that go eventually?
That led to fines for teachers and the Scopes monkey trial.
Yes.
I call what's happening today
Yes.
the Ed Scare.
Okay, what I call is happening today, new buzzword or buzz phrase, the Ed Scare. Doesn't really roll off the tongue. I don't think it's going to catch on, but I've been fooled before. But circling, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase on the board.
It parallels the Red Scares that followed the First and Second World Wars. Then it was mass panic about communism. Now
yeah,
it's a carousel of concerns.
A carousel of concerns. Ooh, like critical race theory? Like, is that it? Yeah, what is the concern? You don't have a successful, argumentative, or persuasive essay unless you at least mention, entertain, and articulate the opposition to your idea. And then you attempt, whether successful or not is questionable, you attempt to knock down the opposition with your quote-unquote better arguments. Are you going to do that?
Critical race theory, action civics, social emotional learning.
Social emotional learning. Oh boy, we're going for all the big hitters here. I've done several videos on social emotional learning. What is the opposition to social emotional learning? What is the opposition to critical race theory?
LGBTQ issues.
LGBTQ issues in grade school. I mean, you haven't mentioned specific grades, but I'm going to assume we're talking in the majority, first through sixth, like K through six, right? Most of the time. Or are you going to tell us what kind of grade level you're talking about?
The Ed Scare isn't about any one of these particular ideologies or concepts.
Oh, they are ideologies. Oh, they're ideologies. Okay, so well, I'm glad that he's at least. I appreciate the candor. So you're arguing for the pushing of specific ideologies in public education. Okay, well, I appreciate that.
It's a political campaign to control what students learn about in schools altogether.
And what you're suggesting isn't. What you're suggesting, critical race theory is not politically motivated. Social emotional learning is not politically motivated. Action civics isn't politically motivated? Are you out of your mind?
And in many states, it is shading into vitriol, hate, and harassment. Teachers and librarians are receiving threats, quitting, or being fired.
Why? Why? Also, one of his examples for those of you listening at home or on the road, as it were, he has a graphic up right now showing headlines from 4 different publications. Of course, the place that we all go to for our hard-hitting news, Teen Vogue, then W, then Argus Leader, and then a clip that has no attribution that I can tell, but the headline says, Tennessee lawmaker revives state's Don't Say Gay bill for schools. except that it's not a don't say gay bill. It's a parental rights bill. It's a parental information bill. It's about transparency of what is being taught to children. That's what it is. The don't say gay thing was the clever little moniker that was applied to it to try to say that it was something that it wasn't. But anyway.
Now, as anyone who's been paying attention knows, in recent years, a chasm has opened up across college campuses, businesses, Hollywood, social media. Some people view new ways of talking about racism, gender, and sexuality as unquestionable and urgent.
Yeah. But who are you talking about?
Others resist.
It's about the redefinition of certain terms that you just mentioned. It's about how they are being talked about and what is being talked about to certain age groups in particular. But you're just going to gloss over all of that. You're okay. Well, if I needed any more information, leaves out vital context, circling that on the board. Let's see. And also in not at least giving something about the other side repeatedly over and over again, and benevolent condescension. I can't help but to avoid it on that. Let's see. Also, mind reading assumes motives, because that's what he's doing right now. And then I might be overstepping. I'm happy to be corrected. Contradicts own point or argument where again, I appreciate the honesty, but he said ideologies. He's not talking about academics. He's not talking about intellectualism or anything. He's talking about ideologies, these ideologies, and that somehow his side isn't politically motivated, but opposition is. Okay. So on the board, as of right now, leaves out vital context, benevolent condescension, free space, mind reading assumes motives, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, contradicts own point or argument, and a list moving forward.
Fomenting skepticism and animosity.
Oh, heaven forfend anybody be skeptical about things.
In our diverse democracy, we should expect to work out these disagreements through discussion.
Well, first and foremost, he said diversity or diverse, so I'm circling diversity, equity, and or inclusion on the board. Also, we're not a democracy. We are a representative republic. But okay, whatever. You're a teacher, right? Or an educator of some kind? All right.
But with misinformation, online echo chambers, elected officials stoking fears and anxieties about schools at new levels from the pandemic, discussion is getting harder.
Discussion is getting harder? Do you want to have a discussion? It doesn't sound like you want to have a discussion because the other side is wrong. The other side has no point. The other side has no basis for their complaint. The other side, in fact, is so meaningless to this, you're not even willing to speak or even give voice to what their opposition is. Even if you do it in a sardonic or sarcastic way, I'd at least appreciate that. You would at least be educating your audience on what the other side has to say about these subjects. But thus far, about a third of the way through your presentation, you haven't even given a whiff of letting the other side have a say. So
educational censorship isn't going to make that easier. It's
curation. They are curating the books in the school. You may not agree with some of their choices, but it is not censorship in the way that you are stating it. And you really need to get more specific because you have wandered all over the place in your complaints. From laws to specific things, subject matter. Thank you again, C. Thomas. There is only so many ways I can scream insidious partisan shill about this dude, cries about censorship, but will happily do it to his opposition. Right. He doesn't want a discussion. He already knows who's right and who's wrong. Imagine if somebody wanted to air a speech from Donald Trump or a Republican or something. What would he say? Or have a conservative speaker come to a campus. What would happen then?
It's already making it worse.
Uh-huh.
Look around. There are
Mhm.
now 19 states where government officials have passed a law, a policy, or an executive order that constitutes a gag on public education. 7 states have passed them applying to colleges and universities to constrain discussions among adults.
What are you talking about? What is the subject matter you are talking about? What is the argument, one side or the other? What is the controversy? What is the conflict? Simply saying that laws, policies, or bills have been passed and you don't specify doesn't tell me anything.
Many of these have passed by slim margins. Most have passed amid confusion.
Oh, you mean they passed through a democratic process, which you just mentioned earlier was something that... So you lost, is what you're saying. You lost. And are you contesting the vote? Are you saying that the vote was invalid? I heard somewhere that kind of thinking is wrong.
About what they even say or do. So now laws in Iowa, Idaho, Mississippi, Tennessee, they ban race and sex scapegoating.
Oh, is that what it's called? Oh, you mean saying that someone is inherently flawed because of their race or inherently flawed because of their gender? You want that to keep going?
Promoting divisive concepts. Promoting resentment of a class of people.
Okay. Would you like to get more specific about what their complaint is? You're being very abstract right now.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. You're the one on the stage. Why don't you explain? Why don't you take one example? Take one law, one controversy, and detail it for us. Just tell us what the law does. Tell us what the opposition says, and tell us what the people in support of it say, and then we can decide for ourselves. Or you can give us your spin after you've done that. Go ahead. We're all ears. You've got another 12 minutes on the stage. What is that? Yeah, are they laughing with you or at you right now?
Here's what the law says in Oklahoma.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
That teachers and administrators cannot teach that members of one race or sex cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex.
Wait a second. Let me read it one more time for myself. Okay. And again, he's chopped this up, so he's left out a whole bunch of things. Oklahoma, HB 1775. 1. No teacher, administrator, or other employee of a school district, charter school, or virtual charter school shall require or make part of a course the following concepts. And then he jumps down to subsection D, as in dog. So we don't know what A, B, and C say. But anyway, members of one race or sex cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. Cannot attempt and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. Cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. Okay.
Did you get that?
Well, I don't know. What do you say it says?
Yeah, now imagine your job depended on it.
What do you say it says? You're the one on the stage.
The vagueness here, it's not an oversight.
I will agree. I'm a little confused, but then I'm not a lawyer. So what do you say it says, or what is the intention of it? I'm going to play dumb for a second. You're the presenter. You're on the stage. Do you have an explanation?
That's how a chilling effect works. When prohibitions on speech are ambiguous, they're particularly effective, especially when you couple punishments with the prohibitions.
So you're not going to explain or attempt to explain what was on the screen. Okay, what is the intent of the law? What did sections A, B, and C say in that law? Okay. You know what? I got to look this up now. I don't usually do research on these things, but okay, let's see. HB, okay, public school, okay, general prohibition. No teacher, administrator, or other school employee shall require or make part of any course offered in the public school the following discrimination. Oh, that's something different. Public schools, Board of Education. Wait a second. What? Am I looking at the right thing? That was Oklahoma. Wait a second. Hold on. Let me back up a little bit. I'm at 703. Oklahoma, HB 1775. Okay. Shall require district the following concepts. All right. Where's the word concepts in here? Let's see. Concepts. Okay. No, that's not that. No. 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 I cannot find this particular language in this. Maybe this is maybe he was looking at a different version of this. Maybe this is a revised version. What was the other language in there? Without respect. Let's see if I can find without respect. I can do it without respect. Okay. Okay. No teacher, administrator, or other school employee shall require or make part of any course offered in a public school the following discriminatory principles. Number one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. Number two, an individual by virtue of his race or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive without consciously whether consciously or unconsciously. Number three, an individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly because of his or her race or sex. Number four, which would be D, if it were still D, but it's not, members of one race or sex cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. That is a weird one, but he didn't mention the first three. I won't deny that one does kind of confuse me, but it's interesting, isn't it, that he didn't mention the first three elements of that. This is what we call cherry picking. This is selective information. Why is he censoring that information from public discussion? He's for the information of freedom in the First Amendment, and but he is censoring relevant information. Oh, well, thank you again, C. Thomas. Reeks of Gish Gallop, a common creationist tactic. That sounds really familiar to me. Why do I know that phrase? I don't know why I know that phrase. Anyway, let's jump back ahead to 703. So now we have some context, and if I hadn't already circled leaves out vital context, I certainly would. But I'm going to circle anecdote that probably never happened. Because he conveniently leaves out information and tries to pass it off as something that was the end-all be-all, and strangely enough, wasn't true.
Fines for teachers, the revocation of teaching licenses, threats of lawsuits by any parent or citizen.
Uh-huh.
And in many states, these bills are now also coupling prohibitions with mechanisms of surveillance.
Mechanisms of surveillance. Okay, well, again, I'm going to hold against you the subtraction and obfuscation of the rest of the bill that you just showed and put it right up against your complaint about censorship. All right. So you took one element out of that bill, which admittedly, I'm not quite sure I understand it. I would probably need somebody to explain it to me, because even as an English major, I'm reading that going like, what? But the three elements above that sure sound pretty clear-cut to me. But you didn't include those, did you? Right? You removed the context and the intent of that section. So
proposals for video cameras in classrooms.
Well, do you want body cameras on cops?
tip lines to snitch on teachers,
Tip lines to snitch on teachers. Is that just like the number for the front office of the school?
mandates that schools maintain an online searchable database listing out every book, material, handout, poem, song lyric used by any teacher in any minute of any class on any day.
So what you're telling me is that an educational institution sponsored by public money has to have full transparency and disclosure of the information it's providing to its students for parents to be able to look at and know about and be informed of. Oh no! Heaven forfend! No, we have to keep public school education private from the public. Let me see here. That is an argumentative non sequitur. And you know why that is an argumentative non sequitur? I mean, it is also contradicts on point or argument, but we're talking about a guy who opened up his presentation complaining and advocating for openness and the ability to write and to read and to know and da-da-da-da-da-da. But when it comes down to public disclosure of what public educators and educational institutions are doing, that's a problem. Okay.
Yeah, it's Orwellian.
Wait. Sorry. What's Orwellian? Ye who deleted 3 elements from the very bill you used as an example in defense of your argument? What's Orwellian again? Not giving any kind of coverage of the opposition to your arguments? What's Orwellian again? Putting a spin and promoting ideologies in education and saying that your side is not politicized? What is Orwellian again? Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
We have a WTF circling the card before I forget to do that. Yes, that was definitely a WTF moment. Okay, tell me more about 1984.
But that's what happens when you ban 1984.
Oh, is 1984 banned? I mean, is it? Why? What's the argument for it? Is there content within that book that might not be appropriate for school children? Because I could see that. But you know what happens when you want to read 1984? You go to the library, the public library. You can still get 1984. It might not be appropriate for children. I don't know. Seriously, that is an applause line. Okay, and no one in the audience sees the irony of him bringing up 1984. Okay. I feel bad both for the world and for this audience that they're somehow. I mean, I'm assuming there are some people in the audience who see the problem here and we're not clapping. I hope so. I really hope so.
So just consider the plight of teachers here.
I'm not that concerned with the plight of teachers. If the teachers in question are trying to push ideologies onto children that are inappropriate, if they're trying to push books and or other content that is inappropriate, if they're trying to hide things from parents and public disclosure in a public educational system and setting, I don't particularly fear for those teachers.
Wouldn't you tiptoe around politically charged topics?
If they were inappropriate for the classroom, yes.
It's actually not a hypothetical. In Iowa, a student recently reported that her teacher was afraid to explain why the 3/5 compromise is in the Constitution. Sound?
Okay. A student said this. What did the teacher say?
Sounds extreme, but then look at what's happening in Oklahoma.
No. What did the teacher say? A student reported?
Where two school districts, whole school districts, have now had their accreditation downgraded for violating that state's gag order.
Gag order.
One is over a teacher training on implicit bias that an official investigation found did not actually violate directly the law.
Okay, so if it didn't violate the law, then...
And the other one...
I don't have enough information. Implicit bias. Implicit bias. You're talking about microaggressions. And what... Was there anything about race in there? What kind of implicit bias was being taught?
Is about one teacher's classroom anti-bullying exercise where at least one student felt some amount of discomfort.
Okay, wait a second. You use one student reporting that a teacher felt uncomfortable talking about the 3/5 compromise, and that's evidence in favor. But now, because one student reported feeling uncomfortable, that's now ridiculous. Have I lost what passes for my brain at this point? Within 1 minute's time, did he take a poll of one and lift it up as evidence, and then take a poll of one and downgrade it to nonsense?
So maybe the teachers have a reason to feel afraid.
What are you talking about? It is interesting that you are leaving out details of these cases so that we, the audience, can try to assess for ourselves. Weren't you advocating for openness and everything else to educate everybody and so on? And yet I keep feeling like you're withholding vital information. Thank you again, C. Thomas. Who wrote this Hacks Talk? Our leftism? I don't know. He's not helping me out. And here's the thing. I am happy to entertain an argument I don't agree with. That's the driving force behind this series, right? I would, if I was a stalwart, I'm going to stay in my bubble and not entertain anything outside or anything that even sounds like something I might not agree with. I'd just be a guy living in a bubble. I'm giving this guy every fair opportunity to either both to make his argument, to potentially change my mind and or educate me on something, right? Or at the very least, give me more information and a more informed perspective on why I disagree with something. Because it's one thing to just reflexively disagree with something without listening to the argument. But knowing why you disagree with something is always much more helpful. So far, I'm being given propaganda. This is nothing but edited, censored, selective, ideological propaganda. There's not an argument here. He's not introducing both sides. And again, even if he gave the other side in at least a truthful way, but a dismissive way, I would accept that. I would accept it. We're not even getting what the other side is here, and we're not even being given details on the examples that he's providing.
Meanwhile, in Florida.
In Florida. Oh, well, here we go. In Florida. Is this going to be the Don't Say Gay bill? Is this going to be the parental rights bill where the parents have the power to know what is being taught to their students?
There can now? Yeah. I know, I was saving it. In Florida, there can now be no classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity before the 4th grade.
You think before the 4th grade? Let me try to remember here. Let's see. How old was I in first grade? Was like 6 years old. So 6, 7, 8, like 9. Okay, so prior to my even hitting double digits as a child, teachers aren't allowed to talk to me about gender identity or... Oh, no! So you want that to happen. I'm going to back up a little bit just to make sure I didn't miss something.
In Florida, there can now be no classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity before the 4th grade.
Why do you want young children to discuss sexual orientation? You were arguing for 1st to 4th graders. I get slightly ill just even restating the point being made.
Schools don't know what that means.
Schools don't know what that means? Really? Schools don't know what that means. Am I... Oh, okay. What part of that do quote-unquote schools not understand?
They're awaiting guidance from the state, so...
What? I am struck dumb here. What about that statement do quote-unquote schools not understand?
Oh, they're just pulling all books with any LGBTQ content whatsoever.
Good.
Banning classroom libraries.
Banning classroom libraries? What?
Or suspending the purchase and donation of new books entirely.
What books do you mean? You were very specific at the top of this talk. Would you like to tell us the titles of these books? Is there anything in these books that might be objectionable to be shown to small children?
One school district recently carted out 11 boxes of books with LGBTQ themes, drove them and dropped them and donated them to the National Stonewall Museum in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. And themes. What are in the books? If they are pushing ideologies, then they probably shouldn't be there, right?
Okay, purge the books.
The books were not burned. The content was curated for the students. You may not agree with it, but it's interesting that all of these things seem to be focused around one particular realm. From 1st to 4th graders. Well, guess what? When they hit 5th grade, I started out this talk with a headache. I'm working through a headache. This is only enhancing it. Thank you, Alan Thieler. Thyler? Am I saying that right? Is it Thieler or Thyler? And I do want to know. But thank you so much. LOL, this is sad. It is. It's sad because every time he makes a dramatic pause as though it's meaningful or something, it just gives me time to think about how disconnected from reality many of his points are, quote unquote, and how much of negative space is being left in his argument. Number 2, Thyler. Thyler? Okay. I'll attempt to remember that. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. Okay.
But what happens if the students have questions?
Then they ask their parents.
What if they want to ask about a gay uncle or a queer aunt?
Then they ask their parents.
What if they ask about same-sex mating in the animal kingdom?
What?
What if they ask about seahorses?
Okay, well, you know, I have 2 of these for a reason.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Okay, double WTF. Doesn't happen very often, but it happens once in a while. There you go. What if they ask about... In the animal kingdom? Okay. Holy cats, you're ridiculous lunatic. Luna. Dang, thank you so much for the very generous donation and the super effective game controller guy thing. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And for the support. It was super effective. Yeah, this guy is super effective. Or am I super effective? I see how I defer even entertaining the possibility of taking a compliment to myself. I have such a hard time with that. But Luna, thank you so much. That's great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Very generous. Oh, and holy cats, before I go on. Thank you, Grand Inquisitor Tyr Alexander. Scribe.exe has crashed. Context system madness. No kidding. The animal kingdom. And thank you again, C. Thomas. I called it from the start. He is a CP shill. It certainly not looking good. Certainly not looking good. We started out by talking about books writ large. No pun intended, but I'll take it. He was talking about the freedom to read and to write and so on. Okay, big ideas. And then we kept winnowing down, and now we're right at the point that he meant all along. And it's a little creepy. Since you were so transparent about that bill that you showed earlier, where you subtracted the top 3 elements of it, I have to wonder, and I don't know, what is in the rest of that book about seahorses? Is there anything that you showed us 1 page, which seems to tell me there are other pages to that book? I'd be curious to see. Thank you, Roan Harushin. I think I just got brain damage. Well, I apologize for that, but it's TEDx's fault. I'm just the messenger.
Well, just ban questions.
Just ban questions? They can ask their parents. If a kid in a classroom asks a teacher a question that falls outside of their mandate, as an educator, they say, that'd be something to talk to your parents about. And then they move on with the day's lesson. Because there is a line between what is the realm of the teacher and what is up to the parents to decide. Or do you not know about that line? Do you not respect that line?
I've heard some argue that educational gag orders are perfectly reasonable.
Educational gag orders. Is that the official term, or is that just the hyperbolic term you've applied to these things? Policies and regulations, I usually hear. I mean, you could say 6 of one thing, half a dozen of the other, depending on the circumstances. But gag orders, okay.
Government sets curriculum.
To some extent, it can. And you know what? If the school board sets the curriculum and it's a public school, guess what the school board is an extension of? The government.
Teachers don't have free speech. And it's true. Teachers don't have leeway to just say whatever they want in classrooms.
You're right. There are policies and regulations. I can't say whatever I want on in the workspace. Otherwise, I'd be violating policy, regulation, possibly, hostile work environment, depending on what the circumstance. You're right. Speech is regulated. You're right. Depending on the circumstances. But nobody's preventing these teachers from talking outside of the classroom. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Just ban questions? Does that mean he's going to take questions? I don't know. Would he have anything that he's put up there so far challenged, and would he answer it? I don't know.
But it's also true that we don't need gag orders to improve teachers' professional practice.
What? Improve their professional practice? All right, so what do you want first grade teachers discussing with their 6-year-old students? What's good for 1 through 4? Let's just talk about first grade. What should a teacher be doing or be allowed to talk about with 6-year-olds in the classroom? And then how much of that information should be available to parents to review either prior to or concurrently with such education?
Teachers are already expected to teach to state standards. There are already mechanisms for dealing with malpractice or misconduct.
Okay. And if the state sets a standard of thou shalt not teach CRT, thou shalt not expose 1st to 4th graders to sexually explicit material, then your argument is what?
In numerous cases, the Supreme Court has also made clear that our schools must mirror our democracy. Our Constitution does not permit the official suppression of ideas.
Have there been any laws passed, any precedents set that outline what a school is allowed to do, what a school board is allowed to do, what a state is allowed to set? Any states' rights on certain elements of education that you want to bring up? And let me just make this clear. I don't know what or how many of those there might be. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a constitutional expert. But given our speaker's track record so far of cherry picking and redacting relevant information, I have to wonder if there isn't an opposing argument to what he's saying here. And I'm not unjustified in doing so.
The First Amendment does not tolerate laws that cast a pall of orthodoxy over the classroom.
Orthodoxy? Orthodoxy. You want to have specific ideologies taught in schools, and you're complaining about orthodoxy. Oh, okay.
Our classrooms must remain open, open to diversity, open to dissent. And it is that
Open to dissent. Whoa, wait a second. Weren't you the one that just a minute ago was mocking a student who felt uncomfortable in a classroom over something? Wait, which is it? Which is it? Holy cats.
that openness that's now in danger. The ability of teachers to foster critical thinking, encourage debate.
Okay, how is talking about sexual orientations to 1st graders encouraging critical thinking and debate? I'm going to, just like with arguments about restorative justice or the abolition of prisons, let's say, I'll go to the most extreme example to make the point, right? So abolition of prison, what do you do with the serial killer? Okay, in this case, what do you feel comfortable having an adult discuss with a 6-year-old in a classroom? What? I mean, we already know at least one element, right? What are you fine discussing with a 6-year-old in a classroom, in a public school setting?
Spur curiosity and
Spur curiosity about what has been your main topic of conversation so far? You want to spur what kind of curiosity in 1st graders?
wonder.
Wonder.
Call it free speech or not, it's obvious teachers can't do this effectively if they're running around scared.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. If you're scared bringing up sexually explicit material to 1st graders, I'd say that's probably a good thing. Maybe I'm in the minority here. Thank you, Assassin of the Gray. If American children were leading the world in academic achievement, I might tolerate their acts, but they are failing nationwide at even getting children to the baseline. He is an LGBT propagandist. They did a, what was it? It was, I forget what school district it was. It was either like Washington. I think it was Washington D.C. or Baltimore or something recently. I need somebody to tell me for sure. Anyway, math scores. Like out of 2,000 students in this school district, 98% of them couldn't do basic math. 98% in this entire school district. And then when these numbers became public, they then went back and redacted all of the information. Fortunately, someone had downloaded it ahead of time. The quality of education, the thumb on the scales of what counts for achievement these days. He talks about teachers being scared. Okay, well, the fear is that you're going to hurt some child's feelings if they can't achieve academically in one subject or another. This is what we do with social emotional learning and equity education and so on. Right? You don't want to upset anybody, so we're going to make sure everybody passes. I don't know. I'm wandering a bit here, but there's so many. Okay, you're ridiculous with Baltimore. That's what it was, Baltimore. I thought it was, D.C., Baltimore. Yeah, Baltimore. Yeah, Baltimore, school district in Baltimore was receiving some ridiculous amount of money, tax money per child, and yet 98% of them, or some percentile not too far off that, 97, 98, couldn't even pass basic math. It's ridiculous. Okay, we got 7 minutes left. Holy cats.
Some people say none of this is censorship. This is parents' rights.
Okay. I take something back, although he's overwritten everything else I might have said earlier. Okay. You're voicing the opposition's perspective for a second. Okay. How long is this going to last? Okay. Some say it's parents' rights. Yeah. Some things should not be the purview of a public school teacher to discuss with children, and especially not so when it's not made transparent to parents ahead of time. Okay, some say this is about parents' rights, like, I don't know, the government and the voters of Florida, let's say. But okay, but what do you say?
To determine what their children learn in schools.
Will at the very least be informed about what their children are being exposed to. Yes. But
that's not the whole story.
Okay, what is the whole story?
One group of parents wants to act for all parents.
And you want to act for all activists. One group of parents. So, one student reports that their teacher felt uncomfortable or fearful of talking about the 3/5 compromise. And that's reflective of what? One student or all teachers? But now one group of parents wants to talk for all parents. So if I went up to any particular parent and said, excuse me, do you think you should have access to the knowledge of what is being taught to your child in school? I mean, whether you decide to look it up or not, do you think access to that information should be made available to the public and to the parents of children? I would bet you a majority of parents would say that that sounds reasonable. But okay, one group of parents want to speak for all parents. Well, this is what we have voting for, but anyway, yes.
And all students. And they want to remove from schools any books that don't fit a particular ideological worldview.
No, they want to remove from schools books that promote a particular ideological worldview, and in many cases contain content that is demonstrably inappropriate for children. We have seen, and just within the last week, video of parents going before school boards taking out a book that is currently within that school district's libraries and try to read it out loud. And they have been told to stop, or they have been cut short because the content in that book is inappropriate for that forum. And yet somehow that same book and its content is appropriate for middle school children. I ask you, sir, what are you talking about?
People can raise objections about.
Oh, they can't. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate that in a democracy where dissent is valued. Oh, thanks. But there's a but coming, isn't there? There is a but coming. Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk, for the happy, smiley, dancy dog-cat fox. Oh, dog-cat fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
No, that's a P-Dog dog-cat fox. Thank you so much, Mr. Tickletrunk. By the way, P-Dog Night is currently guest hosting on the AAA meeting, which takes place at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, routinely on Drunken Uncle's channel. And the Wednesdays right now are on P-Dog Night's channel, and then Fridays on the Silent Sin channel. He's pulling a couple of weeks, just like I did recently. So if you don't know anything about P-Dog Night, there you go. He also does a morning show called The Morning Night Live on his channel. I believe it's 5 days a week. He might take a day off in the middle. I'm not quite sure. But that happens at 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time. There's a plug for P-Dog. And thank you again, Alan Filer. I forget which one I said the right time. God help us all. Well, we can only hope. Okay, I'm going to back up just a couple of seconds because I think we're about to get an amazing concession.
People can raise objections about what's taught in schools and colleges, and parents should be partners in their children's education. But there's a clear difference between opting some students out of some topics and opting all students out of all topics to which anyone objects.
Would you like to give a specific example of what is being objected to? Would you like to tell us? Give us an active example. I have asked for these things countless times on TED Excellence. Active example. And could you, and I know, given previous information, it's going to be a stretch. Could you give us an active example that is unredacted?
The truth is,
the truth is,
the vast majority of book bans haven't been the result of detailed objections or democratic processes.
Oh, they haven't? Okay. You have some study on this? You have some evidence of that claim? I mean, if there's a specific book that is being put up to be removed from a school library, there's no detailed explanation as to why that book is being put up for that. I mean, whether I agree with the banning of it or not, or the removal of it from the library or not, there's no specific arguments for any of the books that you aren't mentioning. None at all?
Someone complains about a book online, the book goes on a list, the list goes to a district, the district bans the book.
There's no other deliberative process. There's no other, for lack of a better phrase, due process in that. It's just willy-nilly without examination. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I have encountered and or dealt with government operations before. I can believe such automatic push-button things happen. But would you like to give us an example? Thank you, Ron Harushin. I played the stream to my fiance. She flipped him off. Well, I mean, you know, given how we've been treated as the audience so far, I don't necessarily blame her. But let's just say, for the sake of diplomacy, this has been a very, very poorly done presentation thus far. Just to be diplomatic about it. And thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. Has this been one big slippery slope argument? It's been a tailored argument. That's how I'll put it. I'll try to put it. I'll try to put it civilly. It's been a tailored argument. It's been a very, very tailored argument.
Along the way, no one's necessarily reading it.
No one's necessarily. So they may be reading it.
One superintendent
Are you going to tell us who?
told media, as he was unilaterally banning a list of 24 books.
All right. NWF Daily News. Don't know what that means. Walton schools pull 24 books deemed extremely age inappropriate and harmful off shelves. Quote, I haven't read one paragraph of the books at this time. Unquote. Okay. Well, was he advised by other people? Is there any other information to that story? The story is from April 25th, 2022. Well, now I can't help but want to look that up, right? I can't help but want to look that up to at least have some, because I have a feeling I'm not going to be told specific information out of this. Okay, Northwest Florida Daily News. Okay. If I can spell today, Northwest Florida Daily News. And what was the, Walton schools pull 24 books. Okay, Walton schools pull. All right, let's see. There we go. All right, Walton schools pull, and I guess, okay. 24 books deemed okay. Let's see. Walton County School Superintendent Russell Hughes will guide a district review. Will guide a district review of the content of 24 books. Huh. Copies of which recently were pulled from school library shelves after he received an emailed list of 58 books from a conservative educational advocacy group that deems them problematic. The 24 titles now off the shelves of school libraries represent the number of titles on the list from the Florida Citizens Alliance that were found in the libraries after a search for all 58 books. Quote, being proactive, I asked staff to remove the books from circulation for the purposes of reviewing and reevaluating age appropriateness and content, especially in the context of Florida's recent legislative session, unquote, Hughes said in a news release issued late Friday afternoon. The legislative session included passage of a bill related to selection of books for school libraries. So he hadn't read them yet, but he pulled them for review in assessing them for whether or not to pull them. So he was taking a preparatory action to possibly remove them going forward after having a chance to review them. Is he going to tell us that? Did he? So this school superintendent or principal or whatever, erring on the side of caution, he pulled the books so that they could be reviewed and assessed. Okay. Now, here's I'm not going to put a dollar amount on it. Here's the question. Does our speaker clarify that point?
I haven't read one paragraph of the books at this time.
Oh, yeah, you can laugh at yourself, get very smug about it. You are censoring relevant information from your audience's knowledge. Whatever else the subject matter of this talk, you have railed against the idea of censorship. You have railed against the idea of concatenating or restricting information from people for free discussion, free disclosure, free expression. And you, again and again and again, have removed, withheld, and redacted relevant information from your own examples and cherry-picked points to try to make your argument for you. This is not a presentation given in good faith. Whatever else he says, even if he was talking about something that I'm completely on board with, this is not a presentation or an argument made in good faith at all.
That's how 52 books in Utah were determined to be pornographic and lacking literary merit.
Okay. And he puts the list up on the screen. Okay, let's see. Do I recognize any of these? Two Boys Kissing by David Leviathan? Or Levithan? I read Leviathan. A Lesson in Vengeance, Gender Queer, Milk and Honey, Almost Perfect, All Boys Aren't Blue. Now that one sounds familiar because if I'm not mistaken, I saw images from that book posted on Twitter not too long ago, and I seem to recall some questionable things in there for small children. 3 books by one lady, Ellen Hopkins, Crank, Fallout, and Impulse. Okay. More of them. People Kill People and Tilt. Okay. I have a feeling we're not going to be given any of the arguments for why these books were inappropriate. I'm just guessing. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk again. Do you remember shots of empty shelves on the news? This is that incident. People took videos of shelves at that time. Giant lies by omission. Exactly. To err on the side of caution and to prevent any kind of liability or whatever, or damage being done, they pulled the books for review and assessment. Doesn't mean they're going to be taken off forever. Some could be put back. All could be put back. None could be put back after they're reviewed. And 52 books banned from Utah's largest school district. Okay, are these banned or are they just removed for review? I have to ask that question now because we've already gone through this one. Thank you again, Alan Thieler. Pardon me. So Filer. Right? Filer. I'm sorry. Like Ranting Monkey says, his life makes me sad. Yes. Your life makes me sad. Does he still sign off his shows like that? Because I know he used to have that as his stinger at the end of his videos. Caramba. Oi, caramba.
And that's how 110 books in Florida got warning labels slapped on them advising that some members of the community do not think them suitable for students.
Okay. And was that in a democratic process by any chance? You know, democracy, as you underscored and highlighted earlier, is, we're in a democracy. If people make decisions that you don't agree with, then they're wrong. I obviously you think they're wrong. Okay. And is there anything in those books that you would have? Well, I don't know if that's a question I should ask. I keep going back to, okay, what would you feel comfortable reading to a first grader out of these books? Right? What is the objectionable material in any of these books? And then, if you're being reasonable, is it something you'd want to have read to or shown to a first grader?
On the list in Florida is Everywhere Babies, a children's book with simple illustrations.
Simple illustrations? Okay, show us all of them. You're now going to go page by page through the entire book and show us its entire content, right?
Apparently, someone somewhere was offended that the book might contain an image of an interracial same-sex couple.
Is that what it is? Okay. The advisory notice shall serve to inform you that this book has been identified by some community members as unsuitable for students. This book will also be identified in the Destiny system with the same notation. Okay, so that was the only complaint about this book. You're not going to show us any of the other drawings?
They wanted it banned from schools, banned for them, banned for you.
I don't trust you. You've given me no reason to believe you in any of your claims thus far.
Banned for us all.
No, banned for, no. School district. School district. Again, even if I would agree with you on any particular book that I wouldn't find that a problem, etc. Okay. A, not my decision. B, it's not banned from the world. It's from, if parents want to go buy that book for their kids and they don't have a problem with it, then fine. Banned from the world? What are you talking about?
It's a book about babies.
Is it? You've shown us 2 pictures, the cover and 1 illustration, and you've made a claim about the primary complaint against it. Maybe that's right. Maybe that's wrong. All I know is at this point, I can't trust anything you say because you actively redact relevant information from your examples. So, is it?
Now, I know a lot of the time we're talking about books with heavier topics.
Are we? Proceed.
Abuse, abortion,
Whoa, wait. Whoa, what? Abuse and what? Is that stuff you want to talk to first graders about?
We're talking about books with heavier topics. Abuse, abortion, prejudice, or books that frankly make adults uncomfortable about puberty.
What are... Okay, well, late into the game, we're getting into really bizarre territory, more so than before.
And sex.
Yes.
But young people have a right to access information.
First graders?
To seek answers to their questions.
First graders in a public school setting.
They have a right to see themselves reflected in the literature they read.
Okay, where is that right? Where? Just out of curiosity, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just an English major. What are you talking about? Well, I know what you're talking about, but I'm circling word salad because we just went way into La La Land. Holy cats. All right, circling that one.
And to encounter a wide range of human identities and experiences.
What are you... I know what you're talking about, but I'm going to ask rhetorically at least. What are you talking about?
They have a right to consider and confront the wrongs of history.
The wrongs of history. Relayed in what fashion? Because, you know, if you'd read the first 3 elements of that law you just kind of cherry-picked from, any of those elements might come up when you're talking about and referring to, I can only assume, the 1619 Project or critical race theory in general.
We have to at least consider those rights as we're making these decisions.
They're not... What rights are you talking about? What rights are you talking about? And are you going to consider something that you mentioned once and then just kind of hand waved away? Parental rights, both to information and disclosure of what is being shown and taught to their children. Their children. Not the teacher's children, not the school board's children, not the state's children, the parents' children.
Because the consequences of an uneducated public are dire.
And how is that educational equity going right now? How much smarter is CRT making students? What kind of outcomes in educational talent, skill, and retention are taking place with social emotional learning? Would you like to give me those numbers? Would you like to give me those stats? Oh, is that an applause moment? Oh, I guess it is. Oh my gosh, I guess it is. Thank you again, Mr. Tickletrunk. Friendly reminder, teachers work for the parents. Oh, Mr. Tickletrunk, what are you talking about? Teachers know better than the parents. When a child comes to school, they're coming into a confidential educational environment where nothing can leave. It's like a black hole, like light can't even escape it. And everything that goes on there is restricted. It's sort of like the lawyer-client relationship, right? Anything said there, it's not for anybody else's ears. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Teachers are gurus. They are personal, private gurus, therapists, lawyers, confidants for children. They're not there to educate. They're not there to keep a sense of professional distance between themselves and the children. Their jobs and their personal desires and wants and needs. No. They are parents plus, Mr. Tickletrunk. Thank you again. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. I know not what I do. Please forgive me. I can't stop instilling ideology into you. Don't deny me. Every word I say is true. Even if I redact relevant information, I can't stop. Anyway, sorry, I'm stopped now. I was, pardon me. I'll just pretend that applause was for me from the rest of you out in chat.
So, as I watch parents' rights activists ban books and
Parents' rights activists. Yeah, let's start with that first word. Parents. Yeah.
prohibit curriculum and
Yeah.
call police to investigate books in libraries.
Like, would you like to give an example of such a book? Can you give an example of what kind of content was in that book? Anything? Would you like to get specific? Would you like to at least reveal to us a specific example of a complaint made by a parent about the content of any particular book? Right? And actually show us the book, like the whole book, not just one photo and not just your opinions, like the whole book. Just show us the book. If there's nothing wrong with these books, then pick out one of the books in question and just without additional commentary, show us page by page on the screen the book. If there's nothing wrong with it, you won't need to add any commentary. It'll be obvious to any thinking adult. Correct? And yet every time so far, you pick one image, and then move on. You pick one point out of a law and move on. Why won't you show us an entire book? Why won't you specify to us an example and show us the book? Sorry, what was the audience reflexively laughing at again?
Police to investigate books in libraries. I don't think their interest really is in books or curriculum.
Oh, you don't think? Oh, okay. What do you think their interest is?
Or libraries.
Oh, okay. What do you think their interest is?
They want to erase marginalized identities.
Marginalized or marginalization on the board. And because of that, if you can believe it.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Right across, second line from the bottom, all the way across, we have our first bingo, perhaps not the last. We'll find out as we proceed. Thank you again, Mr. Tickletrunk Scribe. My mistake will be our little secret. Just between you and me. Even if heaven and earth collide tonight, we'll be all alone in a different light. I don't care what the world can see. It's just between you and me. Anybody remember Lou Graham? Anybody? Anybody at all? Okay.
silence voices critical of American society, and shut down free speech about racism.
Free speech about racism. Yes, we won't allow. How dare we not allow teachers to tell students that they need to assess themselves and other people on the basis of their skin color, that they need to take responsibility for the sins of people that just happen to have a similar melanin count as them hundreds of years ago, or that they need to think of themselves as perpetual victims or perpetual villains because of the skin color that they possess. Oh, no! Thank you, Alan Thyler. He cannot, it's not appropriate for a TED Talk. We have come across TED Talks that are somewhat fair, TEDx Talks, although TED Talks are kind of already fallen into that. I mean, it is possible to have a relatively well-balanced TEDx Talk. We found them before. They are unicorns. They are big feet after a fashion. They're rarely, often talked about, but rarely seen. Does happen. But in front of this crowd and with this subject matter, we can't get a fair assessment of things, or a genuine, honest assessment of things.
These are helicopter parents.
What?
Blades on.
Oh, is that your assessment? Oh, okay. So the parents shouldn't have a say or be at least informed about their child's education and the materials being used to educate their children. And if they have an objection, they should just, what? Stay silent? Should their ability to speak their minds, to express themselves, be curtailed? What are you asking to have happen here? What are you specifically advocating for? You've got 3 minutes left.
The impulse to ban books and enact censorship.
Oh, for crying. Okay, Godwin's Law, here we go. Yes, a giant pile of books being burned and people raising their hands up, because that's exactly the same thing as what is happening right now. Right? Why don't you have a photo of a giant pile of these books being burned? In the modern day, I mean. Oh, no. Okay, so parents concerned about the content being shown to their children are Nazis. Okay. Thank you, Chicago Mike. He strikes me as someone who would agree with banning Adventures of Tom Sawyer because of reasons. Yeah. How about Huckleberry Finn? How about the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn? How about certain terminology used to describe Jim in Huckleberry Finn? Yeah. What would he say about that? Or To Kill a Mockingbird? Anything in there that, yeah. Holy cats.
Is not new in American history. At times, it emanates from both the left and the right.
Oh, does it really? I seem to have only gotten the sense of one particular side of the aisle being given voice here.
But in the hierarchy of threats to free expression and democracy, the gravest danger comes from weaponizing the machinery of the state, from governors, elected officials, attorneys general.
How about redacting relevant information from laws? How about lying by omission in the statements of public officials and the actions thereof? Anything there? You want to talk about full disclosure? You want to go back to your own examples? Anywhere in there?
Around the world, educational censorship is recognized as a tool of tyrants. There is a reason we associate it with Nazi Germany, apartheid South Africa, and contemporary Hungary and China.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the censorship of relevant information to the public masses to be able to make up their own minds in a critical and informed way. Gosh, I don't mean to keep, dwelling on this, but have you read your own copy today?
Americans used to shudder at Soviet-style book burnings and book purges and programs of new patriotic education.
Yeah, and didn't you talk earlier about ideologies that you were defending and promoting towards school children? Not academics, ideologies.
We ought to shudder when we see these purges and these programs being emulated here.
You're right. We should. The emulation of foisting social ideologies onto children, which isn't really necessarily the most egregious crime at risk of being committed here, but certainly. You're right. You are absolutely right. Now, tell me why the parents are entirely wrong to be concerned.
We can't pretend that rampant educational censorship is not going to take a toll. And
Educational censorship, you say? Was this talk meant to educate? Well, you censored things, so I have to assume no, it's meant to perhaps indoctrinate.
And that toll will be disproportionately felt by students of color and LGBTQ youth who are already at heightened risk of suicide.
If you don't do what I say, children will die. Okay.
Besides, what are we going to do when the kids grow up, get jobs, and don't know anything about the world?
You mean don't know anything about the world as you wish them to see the world? Are we talking about what's good for the children, or are we talking about what pleases you, whose children they are not? I'm going to circle sales pitch for product or service because, at least by extension, most of the books that he's mentioned so far, it's effectively a sales pitch. If not for individuals, then certainly for school districts.
Do you want to work with them?
Do I want to work with them? Who's them? You mean the children that operated outside of your ideological crusade? Yes.
The people pushing the ed scare are loud.
They're trying to protect their children. Now, I don't know if our speaker is a parent or not, but I would assume if our speaker thought that their own child was being put under threat in some way, he might get a little loud in their defense. Thank you again, Mr. Tickletrunk. I used to watch the people trying to push intelligent design in science classes. This guy's using the exact same tactics now, omission and hyperbole. Ah, yes, intelligent design. I actually have a DVD in my collection of I think it was it Nova or something? It was a PBS thing where they broke down the entire argument one side to the other. They showed the selective editing that the intelligent design side pushed forward and all the arguments. It was a really well-balanced document. It was like called Intelligent Design. It was like Showdown or something. I forget what it is. It's got a school bus on the front. Intelligent design. Talk about trying to push a ideology into public education under the guise of false academia. Yeah, we're not far off the mark here. We're not far off the mark.
But their success is not inevitable.
Sorry, I need to back up. I need context. I actually try to make sure I retain some kind of context.
Do you want to work with them?
Yes.
The people pushing the ed scare are loud, but
Yep.
their success is not inevitable. So if you bristle at the idea of throwing books in a fire,
Who's throwing books into a fire? Who is throwing books into a fire? I do bristle at the idea of throwing books into a fire. In fact, if you showed me photographs of anybody taking those books and throwing them into a fire, I would find myself objecting to that. Removing books that have content in them that may be inappropriate and or questionable, at the very least, for small children, is not the equivalent of a book burning. You are not helping your argument by using hyperbole and showing off images of Nazis in relation to concerned parents.
Get fired up about it.
Oh, get fired up? Are you stealing Obama's line now?
If you don't want to censor teachers, prohibit hard history, or
hard history? Is that what you're calling it? The 1619 Project is hard history. I'll give you that. It's pretty hard to stomach that kind of history, that kind of revisionist, selective, ideologically fueled history. You're right. That's hard. That's hard to swallow. Thank you again, Mr. Tickletrunk. In Canada, the New Democrats had a book burning last year. NDP, our second most popular left-wing party. Please invade us and give us freedom. Well, given how your parliament has behaved in the last 72 hours or so, or whatever, it's 4 days, yeah, I wouldn't blame you. Jeez. Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk.
if you don't want to censor teachers, prohibit hard history, or erase identities, speak out. Talk to your local legislator.
Oh, talk to my local legislator. You think that's what the parents in Florida aren't doing elsewhere? You think all those laws and things that are being either put through the legislatures or have already been passed, those weren't a result of people going to their legislators? Okay, you are not seeing the outcomes you want. You're not seeing the information that you want exposed to children. That's your problem. Okay.
Support your local library.
Maybe I do support my local library. Maybe I don't think sexually explicit material should be exposed to first graders. I don't know. It's kind of a weird... Maybe I'm in a weird sort of place mentally on that. Maybe I'm not the type of guy who thinks it's appropriate for 6-year-olds to be battered with questions, theories, and ideas about things that are not appropriate for 6-year-olds, and certainly are not appropriate to be exposed to 6-year-olds outside the purview of their parents. Maybe I'm just weird like that.
Go to a local school board meeting. Bring your friends.
Sure. Go ahead. Have it out. Yeah. Okay. And if the parents say that they don't want the books that you support in the schools and they get more votes on legislation or something, then what? What happens then? And how do you know they're not? How do you know they're not and they lost the argument? Oh, wow. Talk to your legislator. That's an applause line now. That's good.
There are discussions to be had about how we question history, how we teach history, how we question scientific paradigms.
But you're not going to give voice to any opposing viewpoints in this talk. Oh, well, thank you for this last-minute admission that there are other sides to these things.
How parents and teachers work together through
there's another butt coming, big butt coming.
these thorny issues. But if we're going to do any of that, we have to agree to put censorship off the table.
Oh, okay. Here's the thing. Curating books in an elementary school is not censorship. Removing relevant information from your own examples in your own argument that would tend to sow doubt to your argument, that is censorship. The books are available. If some parent wants to buy one of those books for their child in their own home, of their own volition, of their own comfort level, then fine. That's up to them. And such parents can be questioned and judged accordingly, depending on what we're talking about. But elsewise, for a public school system, there are larger considerations to be had, not just your particular feelings. It's not just about you. But let's talk about what is about you. This presentation, where you redacted from your audience relevant information to tailor examples to support your argument, and you complain about censorship.
We have to.
Whoa, did I just... I just leaned on my volume button and turned my volume up, my localized volume up, all the way to the top, and he was just shouting in my ear. I apologize. 1 second. There's this little remote control on the cord for my headphones. I hate it. I don't know why it's there, but I like the headphones a lot. And if I bump it the wrong way, suddenly I get blasted. Okay. Let me back up a second here because
Any issues. But if we're going to do any of that, we have to agree to put censorship off the table. We have to agree to use rational processes and trust teachers and librarians.
I don't trust teachers and librarians who keep secrets from the public. I don't trust teachers or librarians who decide to go maverick on state regulations and policies. Why should I just trust? Just because they have the title of teacher, I'm supposed to trust them? Well, without any other qualification? The answer. Now, first off, the answer is no. But, and for full disclosure, as we're talking disclosure, I don't have any children. I'm not a parent. Okay? I'm not. I don't, as far as things go, I don't have a perpetual, dog in this fight, so to speak. But I have friends that have children. There are children that I care about in my life. And I can just imagine for a moment what would happen if one of these children were exposed to something, as I've seen put out there over and over again, that is defended by people like our speaker, but then somehow it's inappropriate to talk about at a school board meeting. I can empathize, even in situations I'm not particularly directly tied to. Our speaker can't even for the moment empathize with a parent's concern or a parent's rights in regards to their own children. Even hypothetically, even give any lip service to the idea that the parent's concerns might have some validity for them, even if he disagrees with it.
We have to agree that it's a problem if the prevailing concern about public education is not student learning, but fear of political reprisals.
You haven't talked anything about student learning. You have not talked about academics at all. You have talked about ideologies and sexuality. That's it.
This is still a democracy.
Is it? Really? Is that what you want? Because you've got all these laws that have been passed in several states, and like somehow they're obviously wrong. They need to be overturned. It's censorship. Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. Look, we need to censor in order to stop censorship. I know, right? You need to fight fire with fire. Right? I mean, that's how you solve these things. Affirmative action is the best way to deal with racism. Thank you, Keeverdam. Just stopping by. I managed to get home while this is still live. What a crazy talk. LOL. Yeah, you're not kidding. This has gone on longer than many other TED Talks, because nearly every other statement this guy gives us is either demonstrably objectionable from my point of view, or has an example that is just, oh my God, it's just objectively censored.
And the power to stop this assault on public education and stand up for your fundamental freedoms.
Oh, like the freedom to have access to the information of what's being taught to my proverbial child and argue against it? Because you seem to be arguing against people expressing themselves in a way that you disagree with. And you want to talk about a democracy. You want to silence people who disagree with you. And you talk about censorship.
Is right here in this room. Let's use it. Thank you.
Wow. Stunning and brave. Brave and stunning. All the braves, all the stunnings. That was the brave, the stunning. Okay, let's go to the bingo card. We've had enough of that for now. Let's move on to the bingo card. This is what the bingo card looks like. Right. And let me zoom in on that just a smidge here. All right, there we are. So I'm going to go over the bingo card one more time by myself to see if there's anything that I missed. If you guys have arguments for squares to be circled, please hold on to them, and I'll get to you momentarily, but have them ready and put them in the chat when the time comes. Plays victim. He never really spoke about himself. He was always speaking externally. So I don't know if there's an argument there for him to be playing victim. I mean, he talked about how, students are being deprived of this, that, or the other, but he didn't make himself explicitly the victim of anything, as far as I can tell. Weightless example. Yes, the book burning photograph. It was a visual aid, but all the same, he was drawing comparisons as an example. Circle in that one. Self-vilification or wretchedness, at no point, no. Feminism, no. Childhood or family anecdote, and again, this has to do with his bringing up a childhood or family anecdote as part of his presentation. He never did. He never really talked about himself. Privilege, I don't recall him using the word. I'm not sure if I could say there was any kind of theme or aggregate in there for it, but I'm open to suggestions. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. Yes, he talked about implicit bias earlier in the talk. I wasn't sure if he was going to expand on that, and that is just part and parcel with that that concept. Circle on that one. Patriarchy. Again, he never really talked about gender. He never said, this, men are making all the decisions or something. He never said anything like that. So economic disparity. No, I don't think he did. He never talked economics as far as I can recall. Systemic or institutional. Obviously, he's talking about school districts and laws and democracy and so on and so forth. So that is, and he's talking about these things being an endemic as well. So circle in that one. White supremacy. Yeah, it's hard not to show a book burning photo with people with their hands raised up and not at least imply or allude to white supremacy. And lastly, collectivizes own demographic. I mean, in the opening image, it says he's a educator and scholar. He doesn't say that he himself is a teacher. I don't know. I might need an argument for that one. Plus, I'll need a really good argument for that one because that would be 2 bingos for that square. So if it's collectivizes his own demographic, it's got to be a really good argument. So that's the board as I have it right now, the card. So if you have any arguments for squares to be circled, put them in the chat now, and I will entertain them as we go. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Scrolling up a little bit. Let's see. Mystical Trunk. Is he a teacher? That's my question. I don't know. It said at the top that he was a scholar and an educator. I don't know if that means he's also actually a teacher. So I'm not quite sure. Magister, scribe light. He didn't say privilege, but it was heavily implied when he was talking about how books were being removed without due process. I don't know if that's privilege, though. Making unilateral decisions. I might need to expand on that. Abcast Daily Scribelight. Every one of those rights he listed that children have are privileges. I know it is not the usual use for that square, but if he isn't being honest, why do I have to be? Okay, well, I appreciate the argument, but you torpedoed your own point there. But I get your meaning. I get your meaning, but I know it's also a bingo square, so I'm going to need a really good argument. Here you go. Super Koopa TV. Why are so many of these people so devoted to deconstructing every aspect of society up till now? Everything must be rebuilt to these people. I'm so tired of it all. I don't know. If I could explain it, I'd, write a book and sell a zillion copies or something. Sand, Scribelight, is he not one of the teachers he's getting victimized? What he thinks is, I don't know. Saying the only thing I know about him, aside from his position at that Penn organization, is that at the front, the title card, it said he's a scholar and an educator. I don't know if that means he's actually an employed teacher or is currently a teacher or anything else. So that's the part I don't know. And okay, hold on. Mr. Trunk, the speaker is an educator at Penn America. He's a director. Does that mean he's the victim? Parents against his profession? Oh, man. I don't know. That's getting into abstract territory, guys. I don't know. Advocate is Scribelight. I have to wonder what he would do if he found out the local school library had a copy of Mein Kampf. I mean, it is relevant to history, and I would call it hard history. But that's what I was asking earlier. Is like, what information, or should all information, should every book you can think of be available to a first grader? Because he kept talking about first and fourth graders. Rowan Harushan, yeah, Scribelight. I'd say he's a teacher since he's trying to educate people. Is it his own? Okay, but now we're getting into like really, I don't mean to split hairs too much, but this is a double bingo square. And I need an example of him collectivizing his own demographic. And within the context of the talk, I mean, I know, I'm being stingy on this one, but either the card matters, the rules matter, or they don't. Saying Scribelight, didn't he argue that teachers should have the privilege of being trusted in what they... Oh. I like that. Yeah. You know what? You got me. Well, not that it was like I'm the big challenge here or something, but no, I
Oh, won't somebody please?
Bingo. BINGO.
Okay!
Right?
All right, we got our next bingo. All right. I think I'm about to be convinced that I should circle collectivize his own demographic. Scribelight, he's part of an advocacy group. He's not a teacher exactly. I would say it's not applicable. The sanctity of the cards must be upheld. Uh-oh, Mr. Tickletrunk. Mr. Tickletrunk being the contrarian. Magister, to expand sort of on privilege. Oh yeah, parents' rights trumping teachers and all. That's also true. That's also true. Yeah, he was actually arguing against a parent's privilege of being able, yeah, that also works. All right, well, thank you guys for that one. Advocatus again. He's talking about how small groups of people are making decisions for entire public. Yes. Okay. All right. Good job. Let's see. I think he's an activist for Penn America, not Penn State. Yeah, that's what I understand. Penn America. Let's see. Rowan Harushan, Scarlett, can we start up a childless weirdo tries to play parent square? Well, there used to be a square that was something to the effect of speakers should not be in their profession or something like that. But that became so subjective that it just didn't work as a square. It had to be much more firm, much firmer than that. And so, let's see. Advocates again. Did he collectivize his own demographic at the end? Their victory is not inevitable. We can still stop it. It's not specific enough. That's the thing. He didn't say things like, as a white man, right? Or even if he'd said like as a teacher or as a parent or speaking as whatever, that would be an easy one. That'd be an easy one. But yeah, and you see that's the tough time I'm having here. I can't say that he did in such explicit terms that it's an easy circle for me. He was talking about other people, students. He never, and I don't know. It would have been relevant if he brought it up, but he never did. He never said as a parent or anything like that. If he'd done that, then sure, but he didn't. So I don't think so. Let's see. All right, I'm not going to go much longer on this, guys, because my voice is starting to give out. I'm usually not going. I usually try to keep these to about an hour and a half, but man, this one just kept going. So I'll give another couple minutes if you have any more arguments to be made. And again, if there's an argument to be made after the fact, like somebody's watching this later on and has a really good argument that they want to make for collectivize zone demographic or any other square, you can put it in the comments. Obviously, I can't recreate a bingo stinger for it, but if you make an argument and I see it and I agree with it after the fact, I'll pin it or highlight it in some way and put a comment on there. So I appreciate that. So while I give another couple minutes here, programming notes. Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern is the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays, where I'll talk about a thing, whatever catches my interest that day. Also on Sunday's my busy day. Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern will be the next installment of Book Review of the Vampire, where my friend Leonore and I are progressively going through The Vampire Lestat, the second book in the Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles. As we already did Interview with the Vampire and continuing onward, we're almost done with this book. Almost done. And then, conceivably, if I still have the energy after that show, at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, I should, all things, if it lines up, I should be appearing on the Midnight's Edge After Dark weekly roundup show, which is currently going through a transmogrification into a top 10 list type show, title to be determined, format to be determined, but that's where I'll be conceivably on Sunday. It's a bit that's my one floater programming thing, because depending on my energy level and depending on how long my other stream goes, I may or may not be on there, but I have been on there the last couple of weeks. All right, one more look and see if any other arguments. Let's see, FGSW. He was talking about people who are against censorship and banning books. That would be collectivizes demographic. I don't think it passes. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not like wanting to not get a double bingo, but I don't think there's enough there to say it. It's too generalized to say. So I don't think that works. And Roan Harush and Scribelight, my fiance was glad you pointed out how disingenuous this guy was. Plus, it was her first time seeing one of your streams. Well, I can only hope that in the course of working off my feet on these things, that I can point out half the things I then think about after the show's over with, and I think to myself, oh, I should have said that, or oh, I should have said that. But in this instance, he was making it easy to not trust him. So anyway, everybody, I'm going to call it here because my voice is fading. I've gone way longer than I had planned to, and I have to go to bed because I have work in the morning. It's month end, and those invoices need me to invoice them. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Before I leave, if you'd like to join the Discord server, because I do have a Discord server, I'll put the link in the chat. You just have to click on that. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you also have to say the secret word. The secret word tells me and my moderators that you actually watch the show and are a viewer of the show. And that link's only good for a day, so you better hurry up. And today's secret word is censorship, because that's what we have to worry about. And I'm not joking when I say that. But beyond that, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to the fundraisers pinned at the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Really do appreciate it. I hope everyone has a good rest of their Thursday, their Friday ahead of them, their weekend as well. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.